Out of the Hallow, Book 1 of 3 in the Hallow series by J.X.M. Chapter 3 The Sign. A lone, young man walked through the forest. He followed the thicket's winding paths. He walked through the pathways, searching for a sign that showed him where to go. He had heard the stories of the warriors of old, and knew the path existed, the old master's path, Dante's path, the one Eddipus must walk alone. He began the journey Dante sent him on 2 nights prior, and only took some of the meal the clan master had made. He had his tunic, televere, his pack, and the Vidian pinned to his vest, Hilda's Vidian. It still glowed a light purple. He unpinned it and lifted the object, allowing her heart to shimmer in the moonlight. Eddipus undid a clasp from his rich leather strap that laced his backpack and allowed it to fall open. The crystal of the heart, a silver cross, was sparkling. He knelt down to his pack and untied the small bedroll he crafted. He gathered a small number of berries and fruit, and amassed enough twigs of pine to make a decent fire. Eddipus cut down a rabbit with his sword and dried it out for jerky. He settled down in his bedroll near the humble fire. As best as he could figure, Eddipus was close to where Master Dante told him the sign would be. The beauty of the sage fruit tree had wilted and dried. Dante felt it was an evil black magic planted by someone from the north. Eddipus's journey sent him here to a dark and foreboding forest. Master Dante didn't give him all the answers, but Eddipus was strong and understood his path. Eddipus was a warrior rank, like a few in the village. His heart was ready to meet his quest head-on. He needed rest to prepare his body for the coming sojourn. The day was pleasant for Hilda. The sun was shining. The market was bustling. She was nervous and very upset. She knew she couldn't let fear and unease show. She kept a smile on her face and continued walking with Lisa and her fellow prioress, Sister Elda. Elda had made an affidavit to her sister, a word that means title. She called her Sister Noblewoman Anathe, Anathe often meaning youth and beauty. Hilda was enjoying herself with Sister Lisa and her friend. She was enjoying herself, but couldn't shake the thought of her fervor. She couldn't shake the feeling and worry for Eddipus. A trumpet echoed, waking Eddipus, who shot up from his bedroll like a bolt. It was dark, but he could see the outlines of trees around him. A shadow of something sharp pointed inches away from his forehead. His heartbeat thundered through his chest. His sweat trickled as he swore and tried to slow his breathing. Eddipus felt tense. He squinted and peered past the pointed weapon. He saw a man's drooling, grinning face beside him. The stranger had a cold and distant look of hunger. Eddipus growled with anger. Roaring in fear, he yelled a warrior's cry and spun about from his bedroll. He grabbed Televere, bashing the iron weapon away from his head. Eddipus stood, facing the eyes of a monster. The creature uttered a trumpet sound from its now revealed rows of sharp teeth. This wasn't some man. It was a manticora. The weapon was its appendage. Taillavir was at the ready as the beast swung its whippy, scorpion-like tail. Eddipus's grip was firm, but the monster was fierce. A manticora could rip a living thing to shreds. Eddipus stepped back a few paces, trying to parry the tail and hold his blade steady. He yelled again, deflecting the manticora's tail with his blade. Something flew past Eddipus's ear and hit the brute in the back leg, distracting it. It was a green arrow. The manticora lunged. Eddipus stepped to the side as it thrashed its tail. The fierce blow from Eddipus's sword cut the extremity clean off as it tried for another pass. Another arrow from behind him hit the animal between the eyes. Eddipus swung Taillavir over his head, slashing its jugular. The monster fell to the ground, staining the glass with blood. Oedipus breathed a hard sigh of relief. He approached the corpse and pulled an arrow from the animal's leg. He studied it and wondered who could have shot it. The arrow had the symbol of a leaf carved into it. He turned and looked up. Oedipus saw a figure wearing a green hooded cloak. He stood on the limb of a nearby tall tree. Oedipus assumed he had to be an ally. He bowed his head and smiled. The mysterious archer nodded back, placed his arrow into a rear pouch, and leapt with a flip, coming down on one knee. He stood and advanced towards Oedipus. The man reached out his hand. Oedipus grasped and released it. The green archer walked to the manticora, looked it over, and began pulling his arrows. He then kept placing each bloody one into a quiver. "What is your name, friend?" Eddipus said. "Val," the archer said, in almost a whisper. "Val?" "Yes," he replied, his tone quiet and deep. "I am Eddipus," Val nodded. "Don't say much." "You talk too much." Val smirked. He walked back to Eddipus, grabbed his hand, and placed a green bloodied arrow into his palm. "Your prize, Eddipus." "I'm honored. Thank you." Val nodded. "Are you the Sai Clan Master spoke of?" "I am," Val responded.